Hi, this is Dr. Enjoy. Are you tired of all the stress, trauma, mental illness, drugs, toxic relationships, money worries, identity crisis, gender dysphoria, grief, loss, purposelessness? Wouldn't it be great to have something to help guide you through all of this stress? Well, look no further. Purchase your Enjoyno, Nurturing Authentic Living. This isn't your ordinary journal. It's a 7-in-1 therapy companion that covers 5 crucial health areas: mental, physical, financial, aspirational, and social health, plus 2 core foundations: resilience and empowerment, crafted using my innovative Inspire Joy method. This book packs 300 pages filled with journal prompts, therapeutic worksheets, 100 positive affirmations, self care tips, and action steps, all designed to help you unlock your path to less stress and more joy. Head to Amazon today to purchase your Enjoyno for just $39.08. Can people make you feel?
My quick answer to that is no. I said what I said. I said what I said. Now, I think that what is triggering to people about that is that, yes, there are definitely situations where someone can say something that is hurtful to you, but it's really important to know that they are not the cause of it being hurtful. You already mentioned where the cause is. It's
Yeah.
past trauma,
Yeah.
which we understand the trigger to be from something in the past, which means this present moment we are in is not causing the feeling.
Welcome to Journey to Joy Live, a podcast to promote wellness, resilience, and joy while providing mental health awareness and breaking down the stigma of mental illness in the Black community. I'm your host, Dr. Enjoy, and today I bring to you episode 61, What the Feel? The real 4-letter F word. And today I have an amazing special guest, Mikki Bey. She's an emotional regulation coach. So tell us more about you and what you do.
Hi, Dr. Enjoy. First of all, thank you so much for having me. You stole a little bit of my thunder, but
I sure did.
I am an emotional regulation coach. And I always like to say what that means is I teach adults how to self soothe and so that they don't have to cuss folk out on the daily.
There it is.
Yeah, that's what I do.
There it is. How did you get into that? How does one become an emotional regulation coach? Is it a personal story, family?
You know what? Great question. Yes, it is a personal story. So, my background, I grew up in a household that was not emotionally regulated at all. So, there was domestic violence in my house, there was addiction on both sides. And so, as a adolescent, I realized I just had a lot of anger on the inside.
Mm.
And as I started getting into interpersonal relationships and dating and college and all of those types of things, I realized something was going on,
Mhm,
on the inside of me that I wasn't able to really put a finger on at that
mhm,
time. But I always knew that I came from a household where anger was on the menu. Right. And so for me, I did not go into life coaching to become an emotional regulation coach. It was
mhm.
something that I found while I was already a coach. So I've been coaching for 8 years. I've been
Okay.
doing emotional regulation for about 3.5. And it was really because I needed it. And so I started just doing more research about it and it changed my life so much. I said, you
Mhm.
know what? I'm going to go ahead and specialize in it because I know how important it is to get this skill set under your belt so that you can thrive personally and professionally. So yes, it was because I really needed it myself.
Mhm, mhm.
So once I realized just how much of a game changer it was, I knew I
Yeah.
had to implement it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's usually how us experts get into this field is because we needed it or our family needed it or something we've experienced, and you really jumped right in there, the trauma. Trauma makes us angry, the anger makes us not be able to regulate our mood, and, it's really about us taking responsibility for our mood. Because a lot of us feel like, "Well, you done did this to me, so it's you and not me." And then, they get upset because it's like, "Well, why are you telling me I need to regulate my emotions?" It's like, well, I mean, nobody else is going to be able to but you. And I talk to my patients all the time, kids and adults. Like, you're going to have bullies. You're going to have people saying stuff to you. They're going to be trying to insult you, bullying you, disrespecting you, and all kinds of things. So it's a matter of how we respond. So let's talk about that. Like, how can we, especially in the Black community, we got
Yeah.
discrimination, we got all kinds of things that done happened to us historically. So how can
Yes.
we get beyond these like personal traumas, let alone our generational traumas, to be able to try to hone in on our anger?
You know what? That's an excellent question. I think, when I think about emotional regulation, I always say to people, it's a soft skill with a hard consequence. So
Mm,
if we do not learn how to emotionally regulate ourselves, especially as Black people, it can be life or death. So
yeah.
it's not this oh frou frou buzzword cute thing. This could really be a skill that saves your life. And it's imperative. Like I have a Black son I'm raising in the South. And it's one of the things that I'm very conscious with him. He's 5 and teaching
Mm.
him when he's upset, he knows to go find a space and start doing his deep breaths.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, because I'm teaching him early
Uh-huh.
how to regulate on the inside of himself so that if he is ever in the public where it really could mean him going, the difference between him going to jail, the difference between him going to the cemetery, right?
Right,
So
right.
this is really, really important stuff that I'm teaching him day in and day out. And more importantly, I'm modeling it for him. Because one of the things that I
Right.
hear most often from parents is that, especially from teens,
Mhm.
that their teenagers are unruly or not listening or disrespectful. And I said, well,
Correct.
let's put the onus where it really deserves to be, which is on the parent. If you are living in a household where your parent does not know how to regulate,
There it
there
is.
is no chance for this child
There
who
it
has
is.
no frontal lobe to be able to self-regulate. And
Yep.
so when people come to me and ask me, can I teach their 15-year-old or 16-year-old, my answer is always no. And the reason is not because I have something against youth or it. No, I just
Right.
think that it's more
You
important. Yes, it is more important for the adult in the situation to learn how to self-regulate because honestly, most kids are bullied in the home before they're bullied
Mhm.
outside of the home.
Wow. Wow, you said a lot. This is great because we're hitting on parenting, and
Yeah.
I see a lot of kids and I see a lot of teens, and of course, I see all ages. 5-year-olds. Your 5-year-old is emotionally regulated. I have a
Yeah.
3-year-old, and I'm his child psychiatrist, and I still can't get him to regulate. And my excuse is that, well, it's normal for a 3-year-old. Can 3-year-olds emotionally regulate? And what age did you teach your 5-year-old?
Yeah. So, I mean, he's 5 now. I would say we started at about 2.5, 3. Yeah. I mean, as long as I've been doing
Okay.
this, I knew that it had to be something that is just a part of my parenting. And he's at a stage now where he just started kindergarten. He is really in the, I already know this phase, right? Where he's really asserting his independence, which is great. And
Yeah.
that's definitely right on target for where he should be, except for when it crosses the line into disrespect, right? That's when
Mhm.
mama has to come
There it
in
is.
and do that little correction. And a lot of times he's upset by that, right? So I
Yeah.
teach him emotional regulation. Let me just back up really quickly
Yeah.
before I answer that. Emotional regulation is not about not feeling. We want them to have their big feelings,
Good.
but we want you to be able to experience the big feeling without making it be a meltdown for the rest of the day, right?
Correct.
Adults too, and the
Correct.
idea is that with emotional regulation, you get so comfortable with the full spectrum of
Mhm.
how you can feel in a day that it doesn't catch you off guard. You're just like, oh, okay, there's anger. All right,
Yeah.
I know what to do when anger pops up. So
Yeah.
that's what I
Been
deal
prepared.
with. Yes. So for children, I think that's important because they don't have the vocabulary. It's pretty much happy or sad or angry. And
Mhm.
so teaching them that there's a wide range of emotions that you can feel and to label those emotions. And then when you're having the big feelings, even excitement, sometimes, excitement is overwhelming, especially for a child. So teaching them it's okay to pause and
Yeah.
take some breaths and then come back to the fun.
Exactly. Yeah, even the cartoons are doing it with the Hulk. It's like,
Yes,
deep breath, count to 5, so it takes time, and you said it spot on. It's our emotions and how we regulate, and our patience is gonna help them learn how to do that, so we can't get
correct,
mad at them and that kinda thing. So with
correct.
that said, you have released a new ebook, Relaxed and
Yes,
Regulated,
yes,
and I know you mentioned what people will learn is how to identify their triggers, building self-awareness, improving communication, enhancing self-care, setting boundaries, developing resilience. So those are a lot of different important components for everyone to have, and obviously emotional intelligence. Let's talk about
yeah.
emotional intelligence. What is that? Because that's not just on the job. We hear about that on the job, but it's throughout our day too that we should have.
Yeah, again, I think emotional intelligence really starts with you being able to identify how you're feeling so that when you encounter other people that
Mhm.
really may not be able to either address it to you in the moment, you can ascertain what emotion you're witnessing. And I
Mhm.
think that's really important, especially in workplace settings. I mean, there's a statistic that talks about we lose as an economy $1 million per month from people calling out from workplace stress. That means you're encountering people who are having, maybe anxiety, maybe stress
Yeah.
related symptoms that it would really be advantageous for you to know that when you're interacting with someone to be able to pinpoint, okay, I can see that this person is probably having a day and
Yeah.
knowing how to proceed from your internal meter with that person. Maybe this is just not a good time to engage. And one of the things that I always mention to my clients is that embrace the pause. Just because someone is asking you a question right now does not
Mhm.
mean that you have to answer them in this now moment. Because
Correct.
I'm the queen of let me get back to you on that.
Right. You mean especially if it makes them feel a certain way, they can pause.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Yes, you wanna embrace the pause. When you start to notice
Yeah.
those physical sensations happening in your body, because the physical sensations are happening first before your brain even realizes you're triggered. You're hot. I know for me, I get hot, I stop breathing. So I've trained myself to understand those physical cues so that when those physical cues are present, I know to go into my emotional regulation techniques. And the
Mhm.
first one is pausing, stopping, and evaluating, giving a second. And a lot of times in that pause, the other person will self-correct.
Oh, yeah.
If you pause when you are in a conversation with someone because you are activated in whatever type of way, that silence is generally uncomfortable for the other person.
Yep.
And they will usually, it happens to me all the time, so I can say this with a lot of certainty, that they will usually say, "Oh, something happened," without you even saying anything, and they will generally self-correct.
Correct. That's good. So pausing, that is definitely key because pausing helps us be able to take a deep breath and slow that down. Because a lot of times we're triggered. It could trigger us because of past hurt or trauma or past stressors. And then that kicks us into our flight or flight mode. And then, there's those physical reactions you mentioned. So
Yep.
pausing helps us switch us back into that relaxed and regulated system. So that's
Yes.
good. Any other nuggets? We want people to buy the ebook. Any other nuggets,
Yeah.
though, that you wanna talk about from the book?
Yeah, so I think so let me say this about the book. This is a manual. So I did it that way on purpose because people are constantly asking me, well, what do I do when this happens? What do I
Mhm.
do when that happens?
Yeah,
This book answers those questions. The very first chapter is what to do when I'm triggered, because that is the number one question I get. And it is literally step one, step two, step three, step four, step five. Do this, do
great.
that, do this. And I think that's important because as we are learning a skill,
Mhm.
which this is a skill, we need to have a process to that. And then once you get really good at it, then you can kind of mix and match and figure out what needs to happen when certain things present itself. But ultimately, I want people to get really comfortable with their internal environment being grounded before they're looking at the external environment. So learning to view yourself as the cause
Mhm.
and the outside is the effect, not the outside being the cause and the inside being the effect.
Oh, that's good. And that gets back to, like, being responsible and taking responsibility for your own emotions.
Yep.
That's really good. I almost wanna, like, have a moment of silence on that because that's some good stuff. So, the way I found you, Mickey, is this big, huge, controversial post, You
Yes.
posted about it was one of your workshops that you had, and people took a lot out of context about people can't you said that people can't make you feel. So everybody like, well, of course they can make me feel, and this, that, and the other. And I bring it up now because of what you just said. Think
Mhm.
of yourself as the cause and then what happens after as the effect, other than the other way around. So let's really talk about that. Can people make you feel?
My quick answer to that is no. I said what I said. I said what I said. Now, I think that what is triggering to people about that is that, yes, there are definitely situations where someone can say something that is hurtful to you, but it's really important to know that they are not the cause of it being hurtful. You already mentioned where the cause is, it's
Yeah.
past trauma,
Yeah.
which we understand
Mm.
the trigger to be from something in the past, which means this present moment we are in is not causing the feeling. That is
Yeah.
important to know. If that statement in and of itself was correct, that this person is causing
Yeah.
something on the inside of you, that renders you powerless.
Yep. Ooh.
And what I saw, and I responded to a lot of the comments, as many as I could. What
Yeah.
I saw in that thread was a lot of people who are addicted to a victim mentality.
Mm.
They are literally addicted to
Mm.
finding blame outside of self,
Yep.
which is okay if that's where you are in your journey right now. But I'm
Yeah.
not talking to you, Dan. I'm talking to the
Externalizing.
folk. Listen, I'm talking to the folk who like, I got to feel better today. If you want to feel better today, you cannot put the blame on anything outside of you. And I stand on that because if you and I'm not talking about everybody's like, oh well, what about if you have PTSD and what if you have a narcissistic um abuser husband type thing? Okay. Now we're taking something that was a big general statement and narrowing it down to be specific. That's not what this was.
Right.
What was me saying that ultimately there is no one that is the cause of you feeling away because you manufacture all of your emotions. And listen, you don't have to believe me. I'm just the coach, right? Go
Yeah.
listen to Dr. Joe Dispenza talk about it.
Mhm.
Go listen to Michael Singer talk about it. I'm not the only one saying this. I think that in the Black community, we have a lot of finger pointing tendencies
Yeah.
because we have been on the receiving end of a lot of
Yeah.
discrimination, a lot of abuse. Yes, that is in our history. However, if we want to transcend, if we want to move forward in
Right.
your personal life, right? Moving forward in your personal life is going to have to uh, be the catalyst to that is going to have to be you deciding that you are responsible for yourself in
Huh.
every aspect. We
Yeah.
can't really move forward without you saying, I'm 100% responsible for how I feel. I'm 100% responsible for what my life is or is not.
And that's what empowerment is about. Like, wouldn't you want the responsibility and the power to choose how you feel or to feel how you want to feel? And that's key. I think of it as an invitation. If someone talks to me a certain way or does something to me, yeah, it might be an invitation for me to feel disrespected or for me to feel anger or for me to feel offended. But I don't have to accept that invitation. I can just say, okay, I recognize what you're trying to do. But in my emotional regulated techniques, I know I can calm down and give you not give you what you want and basically give you calmness and happiness and content.
I love that. And also, I would say, and the way that I look at that is this is ultimately a mirror for what is happening on the inside of me. Remember, it's cause effect. So generally, when someone is offended, just deal with the offense on the inside of you. This
Yeah.
person is a spiritual teacher, as far as I'm concerned, because
Mm.
they're just reflecting back to you what your own belief system is.
Mm.
Because I could not be hurt by something I don't believe. I could not be hurt by that because
Mm.
it would go straight over my head. I'd be like, "Oh, that's interesting what she
Yeah.
just said."
Wouldn't affect you.
Exactly, it's not gonna affect me. So I take it, yes, as an invitation to use my techniques, but also I get really curious about the emotion that's presenting, because the emotion really just wants you to ask the question, why am I here? Once I answer that question, moves on. Emotions are very they're pesky until you get the memo. And they keep coming back stronger and stronger and stronger until you finally say, okay, this is painful enough, because that's how
Yeah.
people change usually, through persistent, it's constant pain. You want to figure out how to get out of that pain.
Mhm.
And so emotions are continuously coming back because you're not asking the question, you're suppressing. And when you are suppressing, then what happens? That's how illness forms
Yep.
inside the body, because this is energy that is not being used. Emotions are energy in motion. If
Mhm.
we are taking in energy, it has to go somewhere. If we are not processing that energy, and just very simply, one of the things people ask me all the time was, how do I process emotions? I said, processing emotions is a complex thing, but also it's very personal.
Right.
And so the way that I process my emotions may not be the way that you process. You might need to go run. That's not going to
That's
be how I
me.
process. Right. And see, that's not going to be what I choose. But what I would choose is probably journaling, or going to take a bath, or doing a staycation in silence somewhere, or whatever. It really depends on what your self-soothing
Yeah.
techniques need to be, and letting that emotion come up so that you can feel its fullness
Mhm.
and release it, and just say, "You know what? Thank you so much for the memo, and you can go now." And it
Right. Right. So this is good, 'cause how does one figure out what works for them? Because I get that all the time. They come in, "Oh, the deep breathing doesn't help me. Oh, the journal doesn't help. The yoga doesn't help me." They just learned it all and they've tried it all and none of it helps them. So they're ready though. They know they need the coaching, they know they need the therapy, but how do they come across the coping skill that works for them?
you have to treat your life as an experiment. I think that if someone is saying, like, the deep breathing, the yoga, the this, the that doesn't work, I would just say, okay, that's fine. It doesn't have to be the thing that you choose, but then you're going to have to be a detective,
Yes.
because deep breathing, just in general, should work for everybody.
Yes.
Right? It should work for absolutely everyone, that particular technique. So I would get really curious about, well, do you know what you like?
Mhm.
Is there something that when you do it, you feel completely free?
There it is.
Because the idea is, and for me, that used to be, I started off as a makeup artist. I used to be able
Oh,
to
nice.
do makeup and it would feel like I just had a muscle relaxer or something. Right.
Oh, that's why your
So,
makeup always looks so nice.
oh, thank you. Thank you. I still get to use my skills. But
Hey.
that would typically be one of the ways that I could decompress. I
Mm.
have a neighbor who fixes cars, and I had an opportunity to chat with him, and he said, I fix cars because the tinkering helps me feel normal. What is he actually saying? I'm self regulating, I'm self
Ah.
soothing with automobiles. So, where are your interests? What are you interested in? Can you pick up a hobby? And what
Yeah.
I typically tell my clients is, outside hobbies are great, but try to have something that you can do on the inside of your home that requires no money, that you can do it anytime,
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yes, that's key. I mean, and sometimes the things that make us feel calm are real subtle and you don't notice it, but that's why it's important for us to pause and reflect, knowing our triggers, but also just knowing like what are the things that bring us joy and make us feel calm. I know for me, it's throughout my life and it took me some time to realize it, but it's colors. My brand, the bright colors. My wedding were these three colors you see, the purple, pink,
Mm,
teal. I love colors, and just throughout my life, friends would be like, "Oh, those are Nina colors." My book, I love colors, right?
beautiful.
and I did just realized, oh, that brings me joy. It makes me feel calm. Things that are the opposite wouldn't do that. Hans Zimmer movie scores, I just melt away
I love
when I
that.
listen to that. So yeah, it takes us being a detective and putting ourselves into that day-to-day experiment and trying to figure out what actually works because we all have it. We're all human. So there's something, but I like what you said about the deep breathing should work. Because my question to those clients and patients are, well, how are you doing it? How long did you practice it for? How many days are you doing it for? Because doing it one time and maybe doing it the wrong way or doing it a couple times the right way, maybe you need a little bit more time doing it and so trying it again. So whatever that thing, especially deep breathing, because deep breathing is key to switching us from that fight or
Yes.
flight to that relaxed and regulated phase. So
Yes.
there's that
And
question.
also, I try to explain how the brain works. Your brain does not want to change. Your brain wants to be exactly how it's been because it is able to
Trouble.
deduce trouble based on the past. It doesn't have a mechanism for if you change something. And
Mhm.
so the idea is that your brain really wants to keep you in this state, even if it is against what your desire is. And so when you are learning something new, you have to keep that in mind. You have to push past the discomfort of the not knowing, is this going to work? In my line of work, I tell people, I deal with high achieving individuals. So whether you're an entrepreneur or in corporate, these are people who have lots of degrees on the wall, right?
Gotcha.
And we want it to be a linear healing process, and it
Mhm.
is just not. It
Yeah.
is just not going to be do this, get this output, input, output. It's not that. You really have to be open to the process. And that starts with deciding to do the routine until you see the change because the change is happening. You don't put a seed in the ground and start yelling at the seed to grow.
Mhm.
Takes cultivation. It takes consistently watering. It takes consistently putting in to that soil for you to get the fruit.
Yeah, that's really good. Now, what's been the most difficult part of coaching, especially coaching people who require emotional regulation?
You know what? I have to say the most difficult part is not the coaching for me. The most
Good.
difficult part is actually when there's someone I know that I can help who doesn't decide to take me up on the help.
Ah.
And I just had that situation a couple of days ago where I hopped on the phone with a woman who had spoken to my team, and my team was like, "Oh man, she's not going to be able to come on right now." And I said, "No, let me call her." I said
Mhm.
because I know I can help her.
Right.
And unfortunately, I can do a lot to light the path, but if you cannot take the first step to just say, you know what, I'm going to step out on faith and I'm going to believe that if I think Mickey is my coach, that she's going to be able to get me there. I think a lot of times, got to talk about Black folks again. We have not necessarily invested
Yeah.
in personal development.
Right.
And so essentially, you're paying me a high ticket. So you're not getting a Chanel bag for it.
Right.
You're paying me a high ticket for something that is invisible.
Mm.
And it's difficult sometimes to make that jump from if I give this 10,000 over for the bag, I get the bag.
Get to
If I
see
give
it.
this 10,000 over to Mickey, I don't know what I get. Well, what I tell people is it's only expensive if it doesn't work. If it works, it's the best money you ever spent.
Right.
Right? And it's
Mhm.
going to work because it is a skill, which
Mhm.
is different, right? A skill is I can teach you how to do it.
Mhm.
When you are now, I'm not talking about your God given talent, right? A talent is different than a skill. I'm never going to be able to sing. I could probably get to a place where I could hold a note, but I'm never going to be a Whitney Houston or a Mariah Carey,
Right. Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because I don't have that God given ability. However, I can learn the skill
Mhm.
of emotional regulation.
And that's a good thing about emotional regulation, emotional intelligence is that you can improve. It's not like all those the other things that you mentioned, like a skill. But yeah,
Yes.
people they have to believe it. You said believe it. They have to envision it and see that goal of where they want to get to. Picture themselves as someone calm, regulated, at peace, enjoying life. And however they vision boards, journaling, some
Mm.
way, but they really have to picture that and believe they can get there. They may not understand how they'll get there, but at least believing that they will get there. And it really does start with that. And a lot of folks, especially if depression's in the way, anxiety, trauma, all those things are in the way, it's really hard for them to get to that point. But we have to change our internal dialogue and the way we think about ourselves and talk about ourselves.
Absolutely. And, I do encounter people who have mental health issues, right? And
Mhm.
so I always send them out to either a therapist, or we have a therapist on staff as well who's also a life coach, because I'm very cognizant that a lot of people who have difficulty regulating also have other issues going on.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I am not in behavioral health. So that's really important to know. But I want to go back to something you mentioned just a second ago about being able to see themselves on the other side. The point of hiring a coach is because I hold the vision for you. That's my job.
Mm.
You don't know what you can be, but I do, because I've helped so many hundreds of people at this point get from this A to this B.
Love
So all I need you to do is commit.
just come and got
Just
it.
come. Just
Ah,
come and
okay.
commit,
That's
because
even better.
it's even better, right? And my job is to hold that vision, and not only hold the vision for you, but to create the strategy, to create the plan for how we get you there. And so with my coaching programs, I have on-demand coaching, I have group coaching, I have one-on-one coaching. And it really depends on the person. Like, if you're not going to do an on-demand program, don't buy my program. If you
Got
know, like, that's not how you learn, you need, like, a person to talk to, then don't buy the program, right? If you know that you work best in groups, then go for the group program. If you know you don't want nobody in your business and you just wanna talk to me, then one-on-one is the way to go. And I think what's important is that when you make the decision that you want to change, then that's it. You want to change, and you commit to seeing that change come about. It is not necessarily going to be overnight, right? And I
not at
tell
all.
people, don't come to me expecting me to have a magic wand. I do not have a magic wand. We
Mm-mm.
are attempting to upgrade your whole nervous system and your brain
Yep.
for however many years old you are. It's going
Wow.
to take time.
Now how long does it take? Is there certain packages, like 12-week packages or year? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
What are the different
Yes. So
timelines?
all of my programs are 12 weeks if they're live, like if they have a live component, they're 12 weeks. And then I do have the on demand, which are 6 modules, so usually about 6 weeks each. But in truth, it takes it takes people about 12 to 13 months to really change.
Mm. A
And
year.
the reason my programs are a quarter essentially is because I've taught you everything you need to know during that time. After that, it is practice. It is just
Yeah.
practice. The 12 weeks is not because it takes me 12 weeks to get you to change. The 12 weeks is really so that I can teach you the skill, and you have me to keep coming back to for that accountability piece and the repetition piece. So then you can go off and live your life using the skills and always go back to your skills. So, in truth, yes, the program is 12 weeks, and you will see a drastic change in 12 weeks for sure, guaranteed. However, this is lifelong.
Yeah.
This is lifelong. I started my journey, like I said, about 4.5 years ago. I use this stuff every single day. It's just the way in which I live my life from this point on. Like, I am constantly regulating myself. I'm constantly, checking in with myself and feeling for what are my emotions telling me. It's just a natural part of my life now.
And it's more automatic now, because I imagine in the beginning, folks are having to look through manuals and write things down, but after a while, it's automatic. You got it, it doesn't feel like you're doing 100 steps within a s
Right.
yeah.
And the way that I think about emotional regulation is that it's happening anyway. It's just that most of us are self-soothing in a way that's unhealthy. So
Mm.
for me, I used to be 60 pounds overweight, and weight was always a huge issue for me. And this is controversial as well. I always say to people, if you have a weight problem, you have an emotional regulation problem.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
That's just what it is. You would not overeat.
Correct.
And so now, and I'm not talking about people who got PCOS or like some, all these other
True,
kind of
true.
like hormonal things. But if you got a clean bill of health and you are overweight, it is because you have an emotional regulation issue. So for me, when I found emotional regulation and I began to really institute it in my life, the weight fell off automatically because I was no longer self-soothing by going to Popeyes.
Mm.
I was no longer self-soothing by eating a pint of Ben and Jerry's at night. And
Mm.
so replacing those things with a healthier habit with I have journals all over my house. I kid you not. I mean, everywhere you look, I have and I had to get your journal too.
Hey.
Yes, because I have journals all over the place because my chosen way of regulating is through journaling.
Yes.
And I love journaling because I can give it all to the journal. I don't have to edit
It's
myself.
out
I
of your
don't.
head. It's not in there scrambling and messing you up. Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, what I have found, the reason why journaling is my number one go-to is because once I put it all in there and close the book, I immediately feel better.
That's
Immediately.
good.
I immediately feel better, and 9 times out of 10, if it was a person that I felt triggered by, I'm so over it, I don't even need to say anything to the person because I have worked it out on the inside of myself, and to me, that's what's powerful,
How yeah, well,
is that
basically, you're alluding to forgiveness right there. Yeah.
yes, and realizing that absolutely everything in this life journey is really for you. It's
Mhm.
for your growth and your development. So I don't need to be upset with the person that brought it to my attention. And that's different than not holding a boundary. That's different than not holding them accountable for bad behavior. That's completely different. What I'm saying is that when you encounter someone who has said something in offense or, has triggered you in some way, take it as a neutral event
Mhm.
and then come back to it and ask yourself a question. Okay, why was I bothered by this?
Why was I bothered
What
by that?
about this is hitting the inside of me? Right? Because you are essentially taking something that's happening on the outside of you and you're bringing it in
Mhm.
and then you are deciding what to do with it, which most people are just pushing it down.
Yeah, well, your emotions are basically like a signal or an alert that something's wrong or,
Yes,
something going on that you need to identify and figure out what it is. Because I know I'll be going about my day doing well, and then all of a sudden I'm not feeling well. I'm like, "Okay, what just happened? What did I see? What did I what?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's right. I saw that email that reminded me that the insurance isn't gonna pay for that claim," or something like that, and so now I'm upset, but now I know why I got upset, and now I can work on regulating well, it's gonna be okay, and let's work that out. So it's a matter of us being able to identify what those triggers are and what happened.
yeah, and then I think the important thing too is that our brains always want to go to like level 10 catastrophe. But in truth,
Mhm.
I'm sure it's happened where a claim hasn't gone through before
Mhm.
and you've
Mhm.
made it. You still
Mhm.
got to practice, right?
Exactly.
So I think it's really important to reframe and to say, okay, well, this claim didn't go through, but there are 10 more people who are finding me
Yeah,
whose insurance claims are going to go through. And
exactly.
looking at everything, absolutely everything as being for you.
Mhm.
Whatever the reason is that it didn't happen is fine because ultimately I know that I've been through this before. This is not new. This is a part of being in business, right? So understanding the reframing of the thought process of just being like, okay, it didn't happen today doesn't mean it won't be approved tomorrow.
Exactly.
Possible,
And
right?
that's that gratitude and positive affirmations, that you're talking about too. We all of that, we need all these things, right?
Yes,
There might be certain things that don't work, and you craft your own personalized plan for coping skills. But at the end of the day, we do need a little bit of gratitude and positive affirmations, to
for
help us
sure.
get through each of these things as well. So yeah, it's
Hmm.
definitely important. Well, I mean, this is Journey to Joy Live, and I always talk about the choice to enter your journey to joy. And you mentioned quite a few times about we can make the choice. Your clients just make the choice to go with you. And then whatever happens after that, it's going to be improvement. But all you have to do is just make the simple choice. So that's key and that's important. So, resilience, real quick, because that was the last thing of the 6 steps that we were going to learn in relaxed and regulation. How important is resilience when it comes to emotional regulation?
Oh my gosh, it's paramount. It is paramount because if you get knocked down 9 times, you have to find it in yourself to get back up for the 10th time around, because this may be the time that things turn around for you, right? And it's kind of like that meme that we always see with the guy digging for gold and then he
Mhm,
stops short right before he gets to the other side of the goal.
mhm.
And of the gold, and when I think about that, resilience to me is one of the most underrated skills you could develop.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing about this is today, one of my former clients sent me a Kanye reel, and he was talking about that. He was like, my mom instilled in me to believe in myself. So there's nothing that anybody else is going to be able to tell me about me. You have to be willing to fail in order to succeed. And
Yes.
if you're unwilling to fail, that's the failure right there. And so cultivating resilience, just like with my 5-year-old, I'm teaching him right now, it's okay for you to be disappointed.
Mhm. That's
That
good.
is okay. That is a feeling that you get to have, because
Mhm.
not every day is going to result in you getting a surprise, as he calls it, a present, right?
I say that to
Not
all
every
kids.
day is going to be where mommy's going to get you a surprise. And it's
Yeah.
okay for you to be disappointed about that.
That's good to tell our kids that, because sometimes we're like, "Don't be sad, don't cry." It's like, "Well,
No,
no,
go
it's
ahead,
okay."
do what you can do. It's not happening today. So
Mhm.
what am I doing? I'm teaching him that there are going to be times where things don't go the way that you like for them to go, and you still get to be okay. You don't
Mhm.
have to fall apart for it. You can fall apart, but then what's your bounce back? Right? How quickly
Exactly.
can you bounce back? That's what resilience is about. And in
Yeah.
my life, I've had so many things. Both of my parents passed before
Mm.
I was 32. I'm an
Mm.
only child. I've gone through divorce, I've gone through other things in my life. And so I think my superpower is my ability to get back up. It's my
Mhm.
ability to reinvent myself. It's my ability to
Wow.
just just be willing to take a chance on me. And
Uh-huh.
that's what resilience is about. Resilience is an inside game. You have to
Mhm.
be able to give yourself the words of encouragement to
Yep.
lace your boots back up and to
Mhm.
go back out there.
You literally cannot have resilience without failure.
You cannot. You can,
Literally cannot.
and
Yeah.
failure is such an important teacher. Our
Yeah.
successes, our successes are not teaching us nearly as much as our failures.
Correct. Yes, and people love to hear from people who's had failures. Nobody wants to hear from anyone who's perfect, which is why I'm so transparent about things I've gone through, episode after episode, and whoever I speak to. Well, thank you so much. I usually ask, how your journey to joy has been, but that last part you kind of started talking about anyway. It sounds like a good journey. You've been through a lot of challenges and failures yourself. But if there's anything to add to that question, what's your journey to joy been like for you?
Oh my gosh, I think that's such an incredible question. I love that you ask all of your guests that. My journey to joy is a daily
Yep.
process. One of the questions I ask myself each and every day is, how can I serve my human? Because I view myself as a spiritual being inside of this human body. And so since I decided to come to earth in this suit called
Yeah.
Mickey, how can I serve my human today? What do I need? I'm asking questions all throughout my day. And it might sound trivial, but even just checking in with myself about, what do I want to eat today? What
Mhm.
do I what do I need at this time of the day? Do I need a nap? Do I need to go get a manicure or pedicure? What is it that I need? So I think my journey to joy is keeping a pulse on what I need day to day and focusing on feeling good and finding joy in the everyday things, not needing something huge to happen to feel good.
Awesome. That was perfect, Mickey. So where can people find you?
Oh, thank you for asking. I am Get Mikki Bey on all platforms, but I'm most active on IG. So that's the place to really get in touch with me. I also have a free community that has tons of free resources that I don't put anywhere else online. So all of that information is available in my Instagram bio, really quick links that you can just push. Excuse me. That has my link to my ebook. It also has my link to my free community.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I know you're a busy lady, so it's been a pleasure having you come on Journey to Joy Live.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope you have me again.
Of course. Thank you.